everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today we're going to do a slightly less accidental notebook customisation. I did do a video on one of these previously and you guys were quite happy to see another one. So I have another one of these notebooks that were ordered in error and it is obviously a yellow, so a rather cherry shade. It does have a mark on it and I'm hoping a little bit of work we can cover that up. It doesn't seem to want to come off. But yeah, these are just cheap notebooks that were bought for our farming staff and they were the wrong size. They were supposed to be A6, not A5. So we're going to make this one pretty with the help of my basket of paint pens. And I had a little look again at your suggestions that you had left under the last video that we did on this. And I'm still not entirely decided on what I want to do. But I was thinking, because we've got this as a yellow background, some sort of sunset would be really nice. Maybe some like silhouette palm trees, something like that. That sounds good to me. Because the other thought I had was that maybe the front of this notebook is above the surface of the last notebook, because the last notebook was under the water. So maybe this is what you see if you were to swim to the surface. I don't know, something like that. We'll make up a nice story about it. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, like oranges, pinks, reds. Got some nice pinks here. Okay, so my thinking is, for the first step, I'm trying to decide how far up we want the shoreline, because I want to get this really nice graduated sky and, you know, like a really clear sky with these sort of colours here, and then we'd have the sun. So maybe we want to keep that waterline quite low. So just to make sure that we're keeping things even, I'm going to measure up from the bottom. So I'm going to pop this line in just now. Obviously we're going to have some reflections of the other colours off the water, but that's just to keep us right for now. And then we want to decide where our waterline's coming up to. So I'm going to maybe it's like that. And this bottom area here is just going to be sand. So I've got a couple of colours here and I've just got a scrap of paper so that I can test them out. So I was thinking similarly to the last seabed. So this one's quite, it's quite orange. That's the same one, it's just a bigger marker. Although that might be quite good actually. Right, I think we'll go for that. So I'll start down the bottom here, and again I'm working right to left because I'm left-handed and it's just so I don't smudge what's going on here. But I don't know how well this is going to show up. So this isn't going to be completely smooth, so we want to think about the contours of the sand. So if we go in kind of wavy lines along with our blue here, I'll just get this whole bottom section filled in. Oh, my blue's dry now as well, that's good. Okay, that's a good start. So we'll leave that to dry just now. And I'm going to flip this round so I don't put my hands in it. And I'm going to work on this graduated sky. Now this is going to be the same as the top end of the ocean and on the last book. So I have to decide on colours. Now in my head, I was going to use like this off-white colour for the sun, which would be here on the horizon. And then maybe add in some other colours like this sort of peachy tone. We'll start with red up the very top and I'll graduate down through these colours, and maybe the other way round. I'm going to have to, because the orange is quite dark. Yes, I think we'll go pink, orange and then red. Okay, so we want red at the top and orange at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my sun in, and I want it sort of in the middle, you know, because it's roughly 14, so 7 would be the middle. This doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but if you mark out some sort of lines, then you've got a rough idea. I'm going to bring this apex up a bit more. I have to say that doing this on the yellow notebook, it is kind of hard on your eyes. I'm starting to squint at this a little bit, but as we start to fill in more of the more of the yellow that we cover with the POSCA pen, the less of an issue that's going to become. I'll try and cover up as much as possible just now. Okay, so that's helpful. So now what I can do is I can start to think about my lines. Now the idea with this sort of graduated broken line design is that the closer we get to this edge, the closer together we want the lines this way, which gives like a bigger build-up of colour, but also within each individual line itself, we'll go from really wide spaces to the point where they're much, much closer together, to the point where it's almost a solid line at the top here. So we'll start with the pink. And I think I want to come round in sort of like an arch shape. So this will be the last line that goes all the way across, and then I'll bring some pink down the sides here once this part's dry. So this is just, I say, a broken line, so random dots and dashes kind of thing. And they say we want these quite far apart as well. So maybe have the next one here. And then bring this one a little bit closer again. Now you can measure these distances out if that's, if that makes you more comfortable. I like to kind of eyeball things, that's just me though. Okay, so in the next line, because we want to transition into the next colour, I'm going to leave a bigger gap so I can fit one in between. And I'll pop the pink to the side just now and I'll switch to the orange. Give it a cheek. So I'll have to leave that to dry before I can go back in, but we can start with our orange lines now. So we want to start putting these marks a bit closer together as well, because we're coming up towards the top here. Okay, so I want to transition into the red now. So again, I'm going to leave a gap so that I can fit a red line in between, just to give us a little bit of a transition. And I'm going to start putting these marks a lot closer together now as well, as we move our way along the line. For these lines here, I'm using a 1M nib, so these are like the little diddly nibs. You can get a lot of detail in with them though, which is why I like them. Obviously for stuff like this, it's really helpful. And when we're making the broken line, it's going to become less and less broken. So you can see that looks a lot more dense in terms of the pigment standing out against the yellow background. And this really now is just a case of patience and taking your time, because if you try and rush it, that's when we start to make mistakes. Now the good thing is this is relatively easy to wipe off. This notepad that I'm using is actually, it's one of the reasons why the thought came to me in the first place. These are like soft touch covers. And I have found that if you use a little bit of nail polish remover or something like that, you can actually take the POSCA off. It will leave a little bit of a mark depending on which colour you're using. Obviously, if you're using deep colours like purples or blues, there is going to be like a sort of ghost left behind. But if you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. And obviously, because these are opaque, you can paint over them as well. So you don't need to be too precious or worry too much. You don't need to put pressure on yourself. But obviously it's better to get it right first time rather than having to go back. That's always the aim. Well, it is for me. I don't know about you guys, but I'm assuming you'd feel the same way. I'd love to know in the comments if you are a more sort of wayward artist and you just sort of go in and wait and see what happens and, hang the consequences, or whether you like to plan things out meticulously. I'd be really interested to hear what people are, which way people are inclined. I have to say I've always been more of a planner, and I was the same when I used to write as well. I definitely like to know what's going on before I start. But one of the things that I've found about arting is that I have that freedom to change my mind at the last minute, and you've seen it a million times over here in the cave. I just think, we'll put that in there, why not? And that's a really lovely freedom that I've found from art that I didn't have with writing. And it's very, very satisfying, it's very liberating. And it's definitely made me relax a bit more as well when I'm being creative. And to me, that can only be a good thing. So it's definitely changed me, art's changed me. But in a completely and utterly good way. But I'd love to hear whether you like to know exactly what you're doing, because I know I have a friend who likes to draw, and when he's doing sketches in his sketchbook, before he goes to do a finished piece, he has to have everything down to the absolute nth degree. And when you look in his sketchbook, his rough sketches, they look like finished artworks. And aside from giving him a really beautiful sketchbook, he spends a lot of time, and I've often said to him, you know, why do that? Like, the stage that you're taking your sketches to is like a finished drawing. Why don't you just do that on the paper? And he's like, because I have to be absolutely sure. And I definitely don't take it to that stage. I'm very much now a case of I like to see where things go, and you know, like where a pencil or a drawing or even a story about a drawing is going to take me when I'm actually doing it. And I've got some quite nice results being spontaneous like that, and the subscription box challenges are a classic example of that. So I think there's a lot to be said for it, I really do. So we're getting quite close together with things now. Obviously I am approaching the top of the book. Oh, we've got a little smudge. Oh no. Again, not going to worry too much about it, truthfully. Not the end of the world. I might have to give my ruler a wee wipe, just so I don't do any more smudging. No more smudging, please. Truthfully, that's not going to be that noticeable. I have noticed my hand's kind of crampy today. It is very sort of thundery outside. You know, if it feels like it needs to have a really good rain to sort of clear the air and freshen up, and my hand is really tight. So it's not causing me any problems, but I can feel it. So I'll just need to be careful, because that means a spasm might be imminent. Which might be entertaining for you guys, but it's not really good if you're doing things like this. It's funny how I can feel it coming on. I was talking to my dad about it the other day. He was just asking me how my hand was, and I said to him, I was like, it's definitely getting worse as I get older, because that operation in my hand I had when I was 24 or 25. So it was, you know, it wasn't yesterday, and as the years have progressed further away from that original operation, it's definitely getting stiffer. I'm taking cod liver oil and things now as well, just to help it along as much as possible, and I do have exercises to do. Okay, I'm going to have to wait till that dries so that I can do this top edge, because my ruler won't sit on it anymore, and I don't want any disasters. So I'm just having a wee look here, and this bottom part seems to be quite dry, so we'll flip it round again. So you can see there it's starting to look quite nice. So what I'll do here is I'll go back and I'll just make sure that my ruler's really clean, and I'll go back and put in my transition lines. It's a good name for them, I suppose, good a name as any. So we want an orange one in here. Now wait a minute, think about this, Jem. Start as far up as possible. So we'll put a red one in there. Do you like how I'm just brain farting out loud as I go along? I know we're supposed to be showing our process here, but I don't think you need to have the internal monologue externalised, do you? Or maybe you like it, I don't know. So we want this to be a bit more spaced out and a bit more broken than what we were doing. That was maybe a wee bit excessive there. Come on, Jem. And then down here we want an orange one. And we want this quite spaced out also. And then what I can do is now I can pop in these pink lines that I was talking about, and I'm going to bring them right down, but I'm going to stop them round the shape of the sun. Now I have a funny feeling that quite a lot of this is going to be covered up, but it's okay. I'm content with that. We'll not worry too much about it. And I'll maybe just squeeze one last one in here. Okay, so my thoughts here are that I would quite like to have two palm trees coming from down in the front here and sort of bending round. So it would be wise to put these in first, because it will save us on other areas where, you know, there's no point in filling that all in blue to then cover it up with black if we can put that in first. Okay, this is where we take a deep breath. Got my black POSCA pen. I'm going to have this one, come up here like this. And then we'll maybe have this one slightly smaller, like there. Yeah. So, breathe, Jem, it's okay. So we'll start with the frond placement. So maybe we have one coming this way, and we'll have one coming down there, and maybe one out there. That one going back the way? Why not? There we go, that's us, we're done. just kidding. Okay, so what we want to do now is build up on this sort of skeleton that we've put in. So I think we'll have, there's usually, well, I suppose it depends where they are, but you tend to find at the bottom of trees you get little clumps of something growing. So I think we'll pop some of that in. And we want to get the shape of these palm trees. So we want the trunk to be interesting. I don't want the trunk just to be straight up and down. Having been an avid sketcher of palm trees when I was in Mauritius, we'll get some sort of shape to these. They do have quite interesting trunks. Having a little bit of bother with the nib of this. I might have to switch to another one. This is, to be fair, this is a big one. This is a 5M. I'll see if I've got a 3. I'm not sure if I've got a 3M in black. Yeah, I've got a 3M. So I may have to come back in and tidy this up a bit. Yeah, that's better. I want to start bend this round a little bit. The really fun thing about POSCAs is obviously that you can build up on what's there. I'm basically just using triangles here, but I'll go back in and fill in some edges and things once I'm happy that we're all going in the right direction. Try and cover up as much of that yellow as possible. So really basic shapes, but it's given us a really interesting looking trunk. And when you've got something like this, that's what you want. I don't know whether this top branch should maybe just be kind of jaggy on both sides. Let's try. Not super jaggy, but just a little bit jaggy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, do you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that. I have painted myself into a corner. I should have done this one first because if I go over here, that is going to smudge. And we're just not going there. We're not going there. So I think what I'll do is I'll just hold off now. This black here is dry. So I will take this opportunity to finish off my red lines at the top here. We'll go for that. I'm going to stand up for this. So if my head gets in the shot, I'm sorry, but it'll only be temporary, I promise. I want to make sure I've got this lined up properly. I'm actually slightly off centre, but we'll live. Nobody's going to die, so it's okay. I'm going to try and squeeze another line in that gap that I've left, but you can see slightly, like how just very slightly I'm off at the top there. I don't think it's worth correcting, to be honest. I was thinking about maybe just literally just putting some lines on the top here. Maybe we'll try that. And I just have to freehand these because it's right on the edge of where the cover starts to curl over. But this is where all the time I've spent freehanding straight lines and not using a ruler, it kind of comes in handy here. Okay, so not perfect, but looks like it's meant to be part of it. So if I can get a last line in there, I think I can call that a win. Anyway, it's important not to fixate on stuff like that because it's not the main part of the image. Obviously, the focal point is here in the middle, and that's what we want to see. So I'll go back to my black pen now. This is quite dry, so as long as I'm careful here, then I can bring this right off the side of the cover. I feel as if I need another branch here. Okay, I'll have a think about that. I'll have a think about it. So this one here again, I'm gonna be a bit braver. Bring this out and round. There we go. So in fact, let's just make that a total overlap. This is what I mean. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. And we'll bring this one a bit further down. I've given myself quite a square edge there though, so I'll just kind of try and round that off a little bit. There we go. That's better. I think this needs to be a bit fatter out here. Okay, obviously that particular frond is going to go over onto the spine, but we'll deal with that afterwards. We'll just concentrate on getting this cover done first. Yeah, I definitely want an extra branch in here. Ha! That was brave. Did you see that? Didn't even think about it, just did it. Such a rebel. This bit's still a little bit wet though, so I'm going to wait for that to dry before I carry on. Right, okay, so let's do some triangles again. Make these quite big. Oh, that was an accident. Okay, that's going to be a super big one. They're not really triangles though, are they? Alright, let's fill these in a little bit now. So if I feel the need to tidy them up, I can always go back in at the end. So we can get some grasses and things going here as well. We've got things that look like palm trees. Right, I did say I was going to do something with this. I'm going to have to be very careful where I put my hand here. I don't need to go too far that way. So let's just, let's go there. Okay, that looks good enough to me. Yeah, I'm a bit happier with that. It gives a bit more of an asymmetric feel as well because this one's got 4. But I think we've managed to get that random enough that I'm happy with it. Right, I want to try and squeeze in this last red line, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous about this. As I say, I'm just reminding myself, it's not going to ruin the entire piece, it's not going to ruin the cover. That is a really tight fit in there, but we're going for it. Ha! There we go. Ta-da! I think sometimes as well, if you think too much about these things, you build it up to be something it's not. Okay, so that's that done. So just thinking now more about what's going on down here. I do think I want another layer of this colour on here. So again, I'm just making sure I'm being very careful because this is wet here and this is wet here. So I'm going to anchor my hand here and I just want to go back over. Now again, what I've found with this is that you've got to keep your pressure really light. If you start to press too hard, then it just lifts the POSCA that's underneath. And it's also good to keep your lines going while the part that you've just done is still wet because you get less streaks. And that's all, not, you know, that's easier said than done quite a lot of the time. But if you just keep moving and just go gently, it seems to be a bit more manageable. I did think about adding other colours into the sun, but I think that because we've got this quite intricate sort of gradient going on up here, I don't want to make it too busy because then this design is pretty simple and to be honest, I'd quite like to keep it that way. Right, okay, so I want to fill in my sea now. So we're going to have some of the reflection of the sun and this sky coming onto the water, but we want the base colour of the water to still be blue. So I've got this nice blue sparkly POSCA, and again, this is one of the 3M nibs, so what I would call like a medium-sized nib. And I think we'll try and, here I'm like, oh, I don't know where to put my hand. I'll turn this round and go in here first. Oh, it's lovely. I like these sparkly POSCAs because they're not too sparkly. I prefer a more subtle sparkle. I'm not like a full-on glitter kind of gal. It's not really my thing. And I think that POSCA have done a wonderful job with the formulation of this. And I rather like them. I'm just going to tidy up this edge here. Again, we're right on where the fold of the notebook is. It's not a hard edge round the side here. It kind of curves round. It's not just like a, you know, like a straight flat corner. Okay, so start working on this side now. Okay, I think I'm going to fill these, where I've got these undulations, I do think I'm going to fill these in the blue to maybe here. So we absolutely 100% need to let that dry. Now I've got this kind of darker colour here. So it's more of like a pinky shade, and I just want to add in some interest down on this beach part. So while my sea's drying, I'm just going to touch up, oh that was nearly the wrong pen there, oh, I'm just going to touch up some of my palm tree trunks here. A bit scraggy looking, and very carefully tidy this part up. And there we go, that looks a bit better. So in this middle section here, we want a little bit of what's going on at the top. So I'm just going to chuck in a few red lines, a little bit of orange, and we'll get a little bit of pink in as well. And obviously we want this sun colour. Or maybe add in a little bit more blue here. So not going for like complete realism, but we do want it to feel like we're getting some of these reflections in. And we can just build these up. So we'll let that dry off a little bit and then we can add some more in. Now round the shoreline here, I want a sort of sea foam feel, but I don't want it to be too violent looking. My goodness. So I'm just turning the pen slightly on its side and I'm using a kind of, you know, erratic kind of like dotting motion, I suppose, just to get that little feel that there's something going on at the water's edge. Again, you know, we're doing this in a certain style, I suppose, so it's, you know, we're not going for a sort of realistic sea foam here, but we want to give a little bit of texture just to give that impression. And just like we did with the broken lines, using a sort of different way of laying down the pen's just going to help with that a little bit. So it's quite subtle. A few areas here that I just want to kind of touch up as well. I feel like we should have a little bit more red going on here as well. So I'm going to be a bit braver with that. Maybe even have a few pink lines here. So I'm just going to let this dry for a wee minute. And then I'm just going to take this palm tree leaf round here. And then after that, I think I'm going to pretty much call it done. I'm kind of swithering as to whether I want to do something more with the sand. But I think I'm trying to keep a simplicity to this. And I feel that if I start messing about down here, then it might just be a little bit too much. But what I was thinking was maybe we could just put in some, you know, some grasses here. Maybe this is grassy all the way along this part. Who knows? Yeah, look, there we go. Just fill this in at the bottom a wee bit. Yeah, this kind of looks out on its own here, here a little bit. So maybe we'll have a wee gap and then I'll do the same on this side. So we do have some sort of symmetry. Okay, yeah, I'm a bit happier with that down the bottom now, but I think I'm going to leave this centre section because there is a chance here of overworking things and just taking away from, you know, what we're trying to achieve. This is really just for my sort of completionistness. But I just want to bring a palm frond round here. I did toy with the idea of doing like I did with the last one and you know, having something wrapping all the way around, but it's just not really appropriate for this type of image, so I'm just going to leave that be. Okay, there we go. So once this is dry, I'm going to use some Mod Podge. Now I'm not going to use the sparkly one this time. It was suitable for underwater, but not for this. So it's matte Mod Podge I've got here. So it's not going to leave a shiny finish on, but we want to seal it because if this is going to be used, then obviously you want it to be able to stand up to a bit of bashing about. The POSCA will wear off eventually, but it depends, you know, if you're going to put it in and out of like a bag or something all the time, it's going to wear out pretty quickly. But this should hold things in place for a reasonable period of time and just make it a wee bit more robust, which is what we want. That's what we're after. That's us, we're dry now. So I've just got a big wide flat brush here and it's just a cheap brush, but it's good enough for doing this. We'll just go very gently over this surface and we'll spread it out. We want quite a thin coat just over the top, and this does dry clear. So it's just really to put an added layer of protection over what's going on. Obviously the wider the brush that you use for this, the fewer strokes you have going over the entire thing, so you're less likely to disturb what's going on underneath. And I'll just pop a little bit round at the side here over our palm frond, and that is it. We'll leave that to dry. There we go. So that is another notebook cover completed. This will be for sale in the stash shop on Sunday, along with a couple of others that I have done in my spare time. So if you want a wee custom notebook like this just for your bits and pieces, or maybe you're a chronic list writer like me, then head over to Stash Shop on Sunday and they will all be there for you. I hope you've enjoyed this today. I've had great fun doing this. I love doing these. It's really relaxing. It's a great pastime and I'm quite pleased with how this has turned out. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Please stay safe and take care of each other, and I'll see you back in the cave on Sunday for another video. Have a great day, everyone, and bye bye for now.